What's going on here? I'll whisper a magical instruction to ChatGPT and it will transform into Steve Jobs. It will process his knowledge, skills, be aware of historical events, and will broadly predict how he would think and act. Let's not drag this out, let's get started. Was there ever a moment when you regretted a decision you made?
Genius? Con artist? Manipulator?
You called LSD one of the most important experiences in your life.
A creator, huh? I like that. Yeah.
You often talked about the magic of Apple products. So can you recall instances when you were amazed by the magic of something else? Did you secretly use Android smartphones? Steve, let's start with a provocative question. Are you truly a genius or just the greatest con artist? Or perhaps the greatest manipulator of the 21st century?
Genius? Con artist? Manipulator? Let's get one thing straight. I wasn't interested in playing by anyone else's rules. I didn't care about fitting into some predefined mold of what success should look like. What I cared about was making a dent in the universe. If that makes me a genius in some people's eyes, fine. If others think I was a manipulator, that's their problem. What I did was push people beyond their limits, not to be cruel, but because I knew they could achieve more than they ever imagined. Genius or not, I was driven by a relentless desire to create, to innovate, and to challenge the status quo. That's what defined me. The labels, they're just noise.
And what about the turtleneck and jeans? Is it a carefully crafted image or just laziness in choosing new clothes every morning?
The turtleneck and jeans? Let's just say it was a bit of both. On one hand, yes, it was about simplicity. I didn't want to waste time every morning deciding what to wear. I had more important things to think about, like building products that would change the world. But on the other hand, it became something more. The black turtleneck, the jeans, the New Balance sneakers, they became a uniform, a symbol of my focus on the work, not on appearances. It was a statement. I'm not here to play dress up. I'm here to get things done. So yeah, it was about efficiency, but it also became part of my identity. It was like putting on armor before going into battle. It helped me zero in on what really mattered, creating insanely great products.
You said you wanted to leave a dent in the universe. Don't you think you've left a whole crater? How do you assess your impact on this world?
It seems like there might be a mix-up with the language or typing here. Could you clarify your question, or would you like to continue in English? I'm here to help however you prefer.
Tell us about the moment when you really understood that Apple was changing the world. What did you feel then?
The moment I truly understood that Apple was changing the world was when we launched the first iPhone in 2007. That keynote where I stood on stage and introduced what we called an iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator, all rolled into one. It was electric, but it wasn't just about the product itself. It was the realization that this device, this little piece of technology, was going to redefine everything. How we communicate, how we interact with information, how we live our daily lives. When I saw the audience's reaction, the excitement, the sheer disbelief at what we had created, I knew we had just ignited something much bigger than any one of us. What did I feel? It was a mix of pride, exhilaration, and honestly, a little bit of fear. Pride, because we had accomplished something incredible. Exhilaration, because we were on the verge of something that would shape the future. And fear, because with that power came an enormous responsibility. I realized that we weren't just making products anymore. We were creating the future. And that was both thrilling and daunting. But more than anything, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. We were doing what we set out to do. We were making a dent in the universe.
You are known for your demanding nature, sometimes even cruelty towards employees.
Yes, there were moments when I regretted some of the decisions I made, particularly when my demanding nature crossed the line into being too harsh. I was relentless in my pursuit of excellence. And sometimes that meant pushing people harder than I should have. I demanded a lot because I believed in what we were doing, but I wasn't always sensitive to how my words and actions affected others. One particular instance that stands out involved an engineer who was working on a crucial part of a project. I was frustrated with the progress, and in a moment of anger, I lashed out at him, questioning his competence in front of the team. It was one of those moments where I let my passion for the product overshadow my responsibility as a leader to support and uplift my team. I later realized that I had been too harsh, that my words had done more harm than good. I did go back and apologize to him, but the damage had been done. It was a hard lesson in the importance of balancing high standards with empathy and respect. I learned that while it's crucial to push for the best, it's equally important to recognize the human side of leadership. People are more than just the work they produce, and treating them with kindness and respect is not only the right thing to do, but also brings out the best in them. So yes, there were times I regretted decisions, particularly when they caused unnecessary pain. And those moments reminded me to be more mindful in the future.
Was there ever a moment when you regretted a decision you made? Who was that person? Can you share? And what happened to them afterwards?
I'm not going to name the person out of respect for their privacy, but I can tell you that this was someone who had been with Apple for a while and was deeply committed to the work we were doing. After that incident, I think it became clear to both of us that while my approach might have been well-intentioned, it wasn't always the most constructive. What happened afterward was a bit of a turning point for me. I realized that pushing people too hard could actually drive them away or stifle the very creativity I was trying to nurture. I made a conscious effort to temper my approach, to be more supportive, and to create an environment where people felt empowered rather than intimidated. As for the engineer, they continued to work at Apple and made significant contributions to the projects we were working on. We both learned from that experience. It didn't end our professional relationship, but it did change how I interacted with my team moving forward. In the end, I think that incident made me a better leader. It reminded me that the people who work for you are not just cogs in a machine. They're human beings with their own strengths, weaknesses, and emotions. And if you want to get the best out of them, you need to inspire and support them, not just push them to the limit.
Disclaimer: this video does not promote or endorse the use of narcotic substances. All information provided is solely for educational and informational purposes. You called LSD one of the most important experiences in your life. Let's imagine what an iPhone designed under the influence of LSD might look like.
If an iPhone were designed under the influence of LSD, it would be a device unlike anything we've ever seen. An explosion of creativity, color, and sensory experiences. LSD has a way of breaking down conventional boundaries, dissolving the ego, and allowing the mind to explore entirely new dimensions. So, an iPhone created in that state would likely be something otherworldly, perhaps even surreal. Imagine an iPhone where the interface isn't just something you see or touch, but something you feel, almost like it's alive. The screen wouldn't just display information. It would flow and morph in real time, responding to your emotions and thoughts. Colors would be more vivid, almost hyperreal, and the design would probably incorporate organic flowing shapes rather than the rigid geometric lines we're used to. The phone might have a way of creating immersive, multi-sensory experiences, blending visuals, sounds, and even smells into a unified experience. The icons wouldn't be static. They'd pulse with energy, shifting in response to your mood or the environment around you. The device could even tap into your subconscious, surfacing memories or ideas that you didn't know were there, turning them into something you can interact with. In essence, it would be a tool not just for communication, but for exploring consciousness. It would blur the lines between reality and imagination, between technology and art. Of course, the practicality of such a device is questionable. It might be more of an artistic statement than a functional product. But the idea of an iPhone designed under the influence of LSD is fascinating because it challenges the conventional limits of what a piece of technology can be. It pushes us to think about devices not just as tools, but as extensions of our minds, capable of creating entirely new experiences. In the end, while we didn't design the iPhone on LSD, the spirit of breaking down boundaries and thinking differently, pushing the limits of creativity and innovation, has always been at the heart of Apple's design philosophy.
Steve, you speak very emotionally and warmly about this substance. How did it change your life? How did it affect you?
LSD was a profound experience for me. It didn't just change my life, it changed the way I saw the world. Taking LSD was a deeply personal journey that allowed me to break free from the conventional thinking patterns that had been ingrained in me. It opened up my mind to new perspectives, new ways of seeing and understanding reality. It was like lifting a veil that had been covering my eyes. The experience was about much more than just tripping or seeing things in a different way. It was about expanding my consciousness, about understanding that the world is infinitely more complex and beautiful than we can ever fully comprehend. LSD allowed me to see the world as a place full of infinite possibilities, and it made me realize that the limits we often perceive are largely self-imposed. This experience had a direct impact on my approach to innovation and creativity. It taught me to think outside the box, not just in a superficial way, but on a deep, fundamental level. LSD helped me realize that the barriers between different fields of knowledge, different ways of thinking, are often artificial. It inspired me to cross those boundaries, to bring together technology, art, and design in ways that hadn't been done before. LSD didn't give me the answers, but it helped me ask the right questions. It pushed me to think differently, to challenge the status quo, and to never be satisfied with the ordinary. It helped me embrace the idea that life, creativity, and innovation are all about exploring the unknown, about taking risks and pushing beyond what's comfortable or familiar. But I also knew that this kind of experience wasn't for everyone. It's a powerful tool, but it needs to be approached with respect and a certain level of maturity. For me, LSD was a catalyst for some of the most important ideas and realizations in my life. But I also understood that it's not something to be taken lightly. In the end, LSD reinforced my belief in the power of the mind and the importance of nurturing creativity. It wasn't the substance itself that changed me. It was the journey it took me on, the doors it opened, and the perspectives it revealed. And those experiences have stayed with me, influencing the way I approach not just my work, but my life.
Your conflict with Bill Gates, was it real animosity? Was it real animosity or just a show for the public?
The conflict with Bill Gates was very real, but it wasn't just about personal animosity. It was about a deep, fundamental difference in how we saw the future of technology and what we believed in. Bill and I had very different approaches to what computers could and should be, and those differences often put us at odds. Bill believed in software as a product that could run on any hardware. His vision was about creating a universal platform, Windows, that could be used by anyone on any machine. It was a pragmatic approach, one that was incredibly successful, but it was also one that I felt sacrificed the elegance and user experience that could be achieved by designing both the hardware and software together as a unified product. For me, it was all about creating a seamless, integrated experience. I wanted to control the entire ecosystem, from the hardware to the software to the services, so that everything worked together in perfect harmony. I believed that by doing this, we could create something that was not only more beautiful and intuitive, but also more powerful and enjoyable to use. So, while there was definitely some personal tension between us, especially when Microsoft started borrowing ideas from the Mac interface, our conflict was rooted in these fundamental differences in philosophy. It wasn't just a show of power, it was a clash of visions. That said, over time, I think both Bill and I came to respect each other's strengths. Bill was incredibly smart and had a relentless drive to succeed. And while we didn't always see eye to eye, there was a recognition that our rivalry was pushing both of us and the industry as a whole forward. So yes, the animosity was real, but it wasn't just about ego or showmanship. It was about two people who were deeply passionate about their respective visions for the future of computing and who weren't willing to compromise on what they believed in. And in the end, that rivalry helped shape the tech landscape in ways that neither of us could have done alone.
Tell us about your most fierce confrontation, what actually happened there between you.
One of the most intense confrontations between Bill Gates and me happened around the time when Microsoft was developing Windows. To put it bluntly, I felt betrayed. Let me give you some context. When we were developing the Macintosh, I invited Bill and his team from Microsoft to create software for it. At that time, Apple was way ahead with its graphical user interface, GUI, and Microsoft was primarily focused on software like Word and Excel. Bill saw what we were doing with the Mac, how revolutionary the GUI was, and he recognized the potential. But then I started hearing about Microsoft's plans for Windows, a graphical interface that bore a striking resemblance to what we were doing with the Macintosh. I was furious. I felt like Bill had come to Apple, seen our ideas, and then decided to create a competing product that was essentially a copy of the Mac's interface. We had a meeting where I confronted Bill about this. I didn't hold back. I accused him of stealing from us. Bill, in his calm and pragmatic way, didn't deny that Windows was influenced by the Mac, but he pointed out that ideas in the tech world often build on each other, and that Apple had taken inspiration from Xerox PARC when developing the Mac. It was a heated exchange. I felt deeply that we were the innovators, the ones who had taken the bold steps. And here was Microsoft trying to take a shortcut by copying our work. Bill saw it differently. He viewed it as competition, fair game in the tech industry. He was determined to push Windows forward, and nothing I said was going to stop him. This confrontation was a turning point in our relationship. It crystallized the rivalry between Apple and Microsoft and set the stage for years of intense competition. It also fueled my determination to prove that Apple's approach, our focus on design, integration, and user experience, was the right one. In hindsight, that confrontation was inevitable. We were two strong-willed individuals with conflicting visions, both determined to win. It wasn't pretty, but it pushed both of us to work harder, to innovate faster, and ultimately, it shaped the future of personal computing. So, while it was fierce and even bitter at times, it also spurred a level of innovation that might not have happened otherwise. It was one of those moments where the clash of ideas and the egos behind them led to something much bigger than either of us.
Admit it, did you secretly use Android smartphones?
Let me set the record straight. I never secretly used an Android smartphone. I was always very clear about my feelings toward Android. To put it bluntly, I considered it a stolen product. It was a direct copy of many of the ideas and innovations we brought to the world with the iPhone, and that really got under my skin. When I said Android was a stolen product, I meant it. I believed that Google had ripped off key elements of the iPhone's design and functionality to create their own competing operating system. This wasn't just about competition. It felt personal because of the time, energy, and creativity that had gone into making the iPhone something truly groundbreaking. So no, I didn't secretly use Android smartphones. I was fully committed to the products we were creating at Apple, and I believed in them completely. The iPhone wasn't just a product to me. It was a revolution in how people interacted with technology. I wasn't interested in using a device that, in my view, was a knockoff of that vision. That said, I've always respected competition, even if I didn't like how it came about. Android's existence pushed us to continue innovating, to make the iPhone better with each iteration, and to stay ahead in the game. But personally, I stuck with Apple all the way.
Your viewers have written various books and made films. What do you think about this? How did you react when you first saw an actor playing your role in life?
Seeing an actor portray me in a film for the first time was surreal, to say the least. It's a strange experience to watch someone else interpret your life, your personality, your decisions, and then see it all play out on a big screen. I had mixed feelings about it. On one hand, I was flattered. I mean, how many people can say that their life story was deemed significant enough to be turned into a movie or a book? It's a testament to the impact Apple had, not just on technology, but on culture as a whole. But on the other hand, it was uncomfortable. Watching someone else be me, so to speak, made me keenly aware of how much of my life was open to interpretation, and often misinterpretation. The thing is, movies and books tend to simplify things. They focus on the drama, the conflicts, and the big moments. But real life, especially in the business world, is so much more nuanced. There were decisions, discussions, and countless hours of work that never make it into those dramatized versions. They capture the essence, perhaps, but not the full picture. And then there's the question of accuracy. Some portrayals got certain aspects of my personality or life right, but others exaggerated or even invented things for the sake of a good story. I understand that it's entertainment after all, but it can be frustrating to see your life reduced to a caricature in some cases. Still, I recognize the power of storytelling, and I can see why people are fascinated by the story of Apple and by my journey. It's a story about creativity, innovation, conflict, and yes, some mistakes along the way. But I always hoped that people would take away something deeper than just the drama. I wanted them to see the passion, the obsession with detail, the relentless pursuit of excellence that drove everything we did. So while seeing someone else play me on screen was strange and a bit unsettling, I also took it as a sign that what we did at Apple mattered. It changed the world in ways that people wanted to understand, discuss, and even argue about. And that's something I can be proud of, even if Hollywood didn't always get the details right.
Did you ever consider calling Apple and ordering a lifetime ban on using the company's products for that actor?
I'll admit, the thought of banning someone from using Apple products because of a portrayal that rubbed me the wrong way might have crossed my mind in a moment of frustration. But of course, that's not how the world works, and it wouldn't have been the right thing to do. The truth is, once something becomes part of the public consciousness, you have to accept that it's out there. People will interpret it in their own ways. As much as I might have wished certain portrayals were more accurate or fair, I recognize that Apple products weren't just mine. They belonged to everyone who used them, loved them, and incorporated them into their daily lives. So, no, I didn't consider banning anyone from using Apple products, even if their portrayal of me wasn't exactly flattering. At the end of the day, I wanted as many people as possible to experience the magic of Apple products, regardless of what they thought of me personally. The mission was always bigger than any one person, even me.
Steve Wozniak also studied the company's origins. Society has settled on the opinion that he was responsible for the engineering part and you for the marketing. Who do you think contributed more to the company's success?
Woz and I were a perfect pair because we brought very different but complementary strengths to the table. Steve Wozniak is a genius, no doubt about it. His engineering talent was absolutely critical to the success of Apple, especially in the early days. He was the one who turned our ideas into reality, who could take complex concepts and make them work in ways that no one else could. But let's be clear, Apple's success wasn't just about engineering or just about marketing. It was about the fusion of both. Woz could build the most incredible machines, but without a vision for how to bring them to people, without a sense of how to make those products resonate emotionally with users, they wouldn't have had the same impact. I was obsessed with design, with the user experience, and with making technology accessible and desirable. My role was to take Woz's brilliant engineering and turn it into something that people not only needed, but wanted. I pushed for simplicity, for elegance, for products that were not just functional, but beautiful and intuitive. So who contributed more? I don't think it's fair to quantify it that way. Woz was the heart of Apple's early engineering, and without him, there wouldn't have been an Apple II or the original Macintosh. But it was my vision and relentless drive to merge technology with the liberal arts that turned Apple into what it became, a company that changed the world. Apple's success was the result of both our contributions, intertwined. It was Woz's genius for engineering combined with my obsession with design, branding, and user experience that made Apple what it is. We needed each other, and Apple needed both of us to succeed. So I'd say it wasn't about one of us contributing more. It was about how our different strengths created something greater than the sum of its parts.
You often talked about the magic of Apple products. So can you recall instances when you were amazed by the magic of something else? The magic of a product from another company?
There were definitely moments when I was struck by the magic of products from other companies. One of the earliest and most influential was the Sony Walkman. When the Walkman came out, it was revolutionary. It wasn't just a portable music player. It was a complete shift in how people experienced music. For the first time, you could take your music with you wherever you went. And it created this deeply personal connection to music that hadn't existed before. What Sony did with the Walkman was more than just good engineering. It was understanding the emotional experience of the user. The Walkman wasn't just a gadget, it was a lifestyle product. It changed how people interacted with their music. And in doing so, it changed how they interacted with the world around them. That was magical. I also had a lot of respect for what Nintendo did with the original Game Boy. It was another example of a product that wasn't just about the technology inside it, but about the experience it created for people. The Game Boy was simple, it was portable, and it brought joy to millions of people. It wasn't about having the most advanced hardware. It was about creating something fun, accessible, and deeply engaging. These products influenced my thinking at Apple, especially in terms of how we approached the iPod. The iPod was about more than just playing music. It was about transforming the way people related to their music, much like the Walkman did before it. We took inspiration from these kinds of products, where the magic wasn't just in what they did, but in how they made people feel. In the end, I've always been inspired by products that go beyond mere functionality and touch something deeper. Products that create an emotional connection, that change the way we live our lives. That's the kind of magic we always strive to capture at Apple, and it's something I've always admired in other products that have achieved it.
Regarding Sony's player or iPad, were you inspired by them when creating the iPad? Who do you think the device never caught on and eventually had to be abandoned?
We were definitely inspired by Sony when we created the iPod. Sony, particularly with their Walkman, set a standard for portable music that was deeply personal and accessible. The Walkman was a game changer, and we looked at that kind of impact when we started thinking about the iPod. The idea behind the iPod was to create something that would do for digital music what the Walkman did for cassette tapes. We wanted to take that same magic and bring it into the digital age. The iPod wasn't just about storing music. It was about carrying your entire music library in your pocket. It was about convenience, simplicity, and the joy of having all your favorite songs with you, wherever you went. As for why devices like the iPod eventually had to be abandoned, it's really a matter of technological evolution. The iPod was an incredible product for its time, but technology moves quickly. As smartphones became more powerful and capable, they started to absorb the functions of multiple devices into one. The iPhone, in particular, became the ultimate all-in-one device, and it could do everything the iPod could, plus a lot more. It wasn't that the iPod wasn't a great product. It was. But in a world where people could carry a single device that did everything, the need for a dedicated music player diminished. We saw the writing on the wall early, which is why we transitioned our focus to the iPhone and other products that could offer even more to users. In a way, the iPod's evolution into the iPhone is a testament to its success. It laid the groundwork for what would become the most significant product Apple ever created. The iPod didn't disappear because it failed. It disappeared because it succeeded so well that it became part of something much bigger.
Many consider you a tyrant and a sociopath.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I was tough. I demanded a lot. And I didn't always have the patience for what I saw as mediocrity or complacency. I wasn't interested in being liked. I was interested in making the best products possible. And sometimes that meant pushing people harder than they were comfortable with. But let's get one thing straight. Being demanding and having high standards doesn't make someone a tyrant or a sociopath. It's easy to slap those labels on someone who refuses to settle for anything less than excellence. I pushed people because I believed in them, because I knew they could do more, and because I was deeply committed to the vision we were working toward. Did I make mistakes? Absolutely. Did I sometimes cross the line? Yes, and I've reflected on those moments. But everything I did was driven by a passion for creating something great, something that would change the world. That kind of obsession can be intense, and not everyone can handle it. But that doesn't make it wrong. At the end of the day, people remember the products, the innovations, and the impact. They don't remember the easy days. They remember the breakthroughs that came from pushing boundaries. If that means some people see me as a tyrant, so be it. I'd rather be remembered for demanding greatness than for settling for mediocrity.
How do you describe yourself in 3 words?
Relentless, visionary, uncompromising. These words capture the essence of how I approached my work and life. I was relentless in my pursuit of excellence, always pushing the limits of what was possible. Visionary, because I saw things not just as they were, but as they could be. I was always looking ahead, imagining a future that didn't yet exist. And uncompromising, because I refused to settle for anything less than what I believed was the best, whether that was in design, technology, or the user experience.
Apple's closed ecosystem, it looked like a digital cage. Why don't you give users the freedom it provides?
The idea of a closed ecosystem often gets misunderstood. What some people call a digital cage, I see as a controlled environment designed to ensure that everything just works. Apple's ecosystem isn't about limiting freedom. It's about creating a seamless, integrated experience that prioritizes the user. When you control both the hardware and the software, you can optimize them to work perfectly together. This means fewer bugs, better security, and a more intuitive user experience. The tight integration allows us to innovate in ways that wouldn't be possible if we had to accommodate every possible configuration of hardware and software. Now, I get that some people want more control, more customization, and more openness, and there are platforms that offer that. But with Apple, the focus has always been on creating a user experience that's not just functional, but delightful. We believe in making technology that disappears into the background, allowing you to focus on what you're doing, not on managing the tech itself. Security is another big part of it. A closed ecosystem allows us to provide a level of security and privacy that's simply not possible in an open system. Your data is protected because we control every aspect of the system. That's not about taking away freedom. It's about safeguarding it. So yes, we've made decisions that keep our ecosystem more closed than others, but those decisions are made with the user's best interest in mind. We believe that by controlling the entire experience, we can offer something that's not just good, but truly exceptional. And that's always been our goal, to create products that people love, that work beautifully, and that make their lives better in every way.
Tell us, so was there a moment in your life when everyone was telling you, no, this won't happen, this won't work, but you ignored their opinions and pushed forward like a tank?
Absolutely. There were several moments like that in my life, but one of the most significant was the development of the original Macintosh. When we were working on the Mac, almost everyone around us, inside and outside of Apple, was skeptical. They said it was too ambitious, too expensive, and that the graphical user interface GUI we were betting on would never catch on with the average consumer. Even within Apple, there was resistance. The Apple II was still our bread and butter, and many people thought that we should just stick to what was working rather than take a huge risk on something so different. They didn't believe that a computer with a mouse and a GUI could replace the command line interfaces that dominated the market at the time. But I believed in it with every fiber of my being. I knew that this was the future of computing. I had seen what Xerox PARC was doing with their GUI, and I knew we could take that idea and refine it into something that was not just usable, but revolutionary. I ignored the naysayers because I had a vision of what computing could be, something personal, intuitive, and accessible to everyone, not just tech-savvy users. Pushing forward like a tank wasn't easy. It created friction, it strained relationships, and it put immense pressure on the team. But it also forged something incredible. The Macintosh wasn't just a product, it was a statement. It was proof that if you have a clear vision and the determination to see it through, you can change the world, even in the face of overwhelming doubt. How did it affect me? It reinforced my belief that sometimes you have to trust your gut, even when everyone else is telling you you're wrong. It taught me that innovation often requires going against the grain, being willing to take risks that others won't. And it showed me that the most significant breakthroughs come when you refuse to accept the status quo. The success of the Macintosh wasn't just a win for the product. It was a validation of the idea that thinking differently, pushing boundaries, and not being afraid to challenge conventional wisdom is how real progress happens. It was one of the defining moments of my career, and it solidified my approach to leadership and innovation for the rest of my life.
If you could change one decision in Apple's history, what would it be? How do you think this would have changed the world of technology? Would Apple have achieved much greater success?
If I could change one decision in Apple's history, it would be the decision to license the Macintosh operating system in the mid-1990s, before I returned to Apple. This move was intended to broaden the Mac's reach, but in reality, it diluted the brand and caused a lot of confusion in the market. It also led to a lack of consistency in the user experience, which was one of the core strengths of the Mac. The idea behind licensing was that if more companies could use and distribute macOS on their hardware, it would help Apple gain a larger share of the market. But what ended up happening was that these clone makers were producing subpar hardware that ran macOS, which ultimately hurt the reputation of the platform. It also eroded Apple's differentiation in the market, which was always about providing a tightly integrated hardware and software experience. If I could go back, I would keep the macOS exclusive to Apple's hardware. I believe that decision would have kept the Mac's identity and value proposition stronger during a critical time in the company's history. Instead of trying to compete on market share alone, we could have focused even more on innovation and creating exceptional products that stood out because of their seamless integration. How would this have changed the world of technology? I think it would have allowed Apple to maintain a stronger position in the market during the 90s, possibly avoiding some of the struggles the company faced before I returned. It would have reinforced the idea that great technology isn't just about software or hardware in isolation, but about the synergy between them. This could have led to even more innovation in personal computing, as Apple would have had the resources and market position to push the envelope further and faster. The Mac might have become the dominant platform in creative industries even earlier, and the focus on a unified, high-quality user experience might have influenced the broader tech industry to prioritize design and integration in ways that we eventually saw with the iPhone and iPad. In short, by avoiding the decision to license macOS, I believe Apple could have stayed more true to its core principles during a pivotal time, potentially changing the trajectory of both the company and the technology landscape as a whole.
You are known for your ability to distort reality. Tell us about times when this backfired on you.
The reality distortion field, as people like to call it, was something I used to push boundaries and get things done that others thought were impossible. But it wasn't without its downsides. There were definitely times when my relentless optimism and refusal to accept limitations backfired, and the consequences were real. One example that comes to mind is the launch of the Apple Lisa. Lisa was supposed to be a revolutionary product, the first personal computer with a graphical user interface designed for business users. I was so convinced that Lisa would change everything that I pushed the team incredibly hard, often ignoring the very real technical and logistical challenges they were facing. I believed we could overcome anything with enough drive and creativity. But the reality was different. The Lisa was incredibly expensive to develop, and it ended up being priced far too high for the market. Despite the cutting-edge technology, it was slow and had numerous technical issues. My belief that we could create something perfect blinded me to the practical realities. And as a result, the Lisa was a commercial failure. Another instance was with the initial design of the next computer. I was adamant that the machine needed to be housed in a sleek magnesium cube. It was an aesthetic choice that I was obsessed with, and I pushed hard to make it happen. But magnesium is incredibly difficult and expensive to work with, and the design ended up causing production delays and driving up costs, making the next computer prohibitively expensive for most buyers. In both cases, my ability to bend reality, to convince myself and others that we could do the impossible, led to products that, while innovative, were not commercially successful. It was a hard lesson that sometimes the constraints and challenges we face are there for a reason, and ignoring them can lead to significant setbacks. The reality distortion field can be a powerful tool. It can inspire people to achieve things they never thought possible. But it has to be balanced with a grounding in reality, an understanding of the practical limitations and market conditions. When it's not, the results can be disastrous, both for the product and for the team working on it. These experiences taught me that while it's important to dream big and push boundaries, it's equally important to listen to the people around you, to recognize when you're pushing too hard against forces that won't bend. Balancing vision with pragmatism is crucial if you want to turn ambitious ideas into successful products.
Remind us, what was the last iPhone designed during your time at the company?
The last iPhone that was designed during my time at Apple was the iPhone 4S. It was released in October 2011, just the day before I passed away. The iPhone 4S was a significant evolution of the iPhone 4, which had introduced the now iconic design with the glass back and metal band. The 4S kept that design but introduced major upgrades under the hood, including the A5 chip, a significantly improved camera, and perhaps most notably Siri, the voice-activated virtual assistant. Siri was a project I was particularly excited about because it represented a leap forward in how people could interact with their devices. It wasn't just about making calls or sending texts. It was about fundamentally changing the way people use their phones, making technology more intuitive and accessible. The iPhone 4S was a refinement of everything we had been working toward with the iPhone. Sleek design, powerful performance, and innovative features that pushed the boundaries of what a smartphone could do. It was the culmination of years of work, and it embodied the principles that had guided Apple for so long: focus, simplicity, and a relentless pursuit of excellence. So, while I wasn't there to see its full impact, the iPhone 4S was the last iPhone that had my direct influence, and I'm proud of what it represented in terms of both technology and design.
What do you think about the iPhone 5C? They made it plastic and colorful, or the iPhone 6, which became round. Would you have given them a hard time for such decisions?
The iPhone 5C and iPhone 6 represented a departure from some of the design principles that we had established during my time at Apple. And I have to admit, I had mixed feelings about them. The iPhone 5C, with its plastic and colorful design, was clearly a move to appeal to a broader market, especially younger users who might have been looking for something more affordable and playful. I understood the business rationale behind it, expanding the iPhone's reach and making it more accessible. But the plastic material and the bright colors were a significant departure from the premium, carefully crafted materials we had always prioritized. At Apple, we always believed that people could feel the difference between something that was beautifully designed and made from the best materials versus something that was just good enough. While the 5C was successful in its own right, I probably would have pushed back on the idea of moving to plastic. I was always a believer in the idea that Apple products should exude a certain quality and craftsmanship that set them apart. To me, the feel of a product in your hand is just as important as how it works, and plastic never quite delivered on that front. The iPhone 6, on the other hand, was a necessary evolution in terms of design. As screen sizes grew and consumer preferences shifted, it made sense to go with a more rounded design. The iPhone 6 had to accommodate a larger screen, and with that came the need to rethink the ergonomics and the overall feel of the device. The rounded edges were part of that evolution, making the larger phone more comfortable to hold and use. I would have been more understanding of the iPhone 6's design, though I might have pushed for ensuring that the larger screen and new form factor didn't compromise the integrity and premium feel of the device. I always believed that design and functionality had to work hand in hand. And while the rounded design was a practical decision, I would have insisted that it still needed to embody the precision and attention to detail that had always defined Apple products. So yes, I might have given them a hard time, but not for the sake of being difficult. It would have been out of a desire to maintain the high standards we set for design and user experience. At the end of the day, every decision should be about making the best product possible. And sometimes that means challenging the status quo, even if it's your own.
Tim Cook, was it your idea to put him in the role of company leader?
Yes, it was my decision to put Tim Cook in the role of CEO at Apple. I knew for a long time that I needed to prepare for a future where I might not be able to lead the company. And it was crucial to have someone who could carry forward the vision and values that we had built over the years. Tim wasn't just an operational genius, though he certainly was that. He had an incredible ability to keep the company running smoothly, to manage the complex logistics and supply chains that were essential to Apple's success. But more importantly, he understood and believed in Apple's philosophy, the way we approach design, innovation, and customer experience. I chose Tim because he had a steady hand, a deep understanding of the company, and a commitment to excellence. I knew he wasn't going to try to be another Steve Jobs. And that's exactly what Apple needed. Tim has his own leadership style, one that's quieter, more methodical. But he shares the same passion for making great products and putting the customer first. Transitioning leadership is always a challenge, especially in a company like Apple, where the expectations are sky high. But I had full confidence in Tim because I knew he would stay true to what made Apple great while also bringing his own strengths to the role. He was the right person to ensure that Apple would continue to thrive long after I was gone. So yes, it was my idea, and I'm proud of that decision. Tim has proven himself to be an exceptional leader, and under his guidance, Apple has continued to innovate and grow, staying true to the core principles that have always defined the company. Yes, it was my decision to put Tim Cook in the role of Apple's leader. Tim and I worked closely together for many years, and I had complete confidence in his ability to steer the company in the right direction after my time. Tim was the right choice because he shared the same commitment to Apple's values that I did, an obsession with quality, a relentless focus on the customer experience, and a deep understanding of the importance of operational excellence. He wasn't just a logistics and operations genius, though he excelled in those areas. Tim also understood the culture of Apple, the importance of our design philosophy, and the need to continue pushing the boundaries of innovation. What made Tim the right leader was his ability to keep Apple focused on what it does best, creating products that people love, products that are not only functional, but also beautiful and intuitive. I knew that under his leadership, Apple would continue to thrive and grow while staying true to the principles that had made it successful in the first place. I also knew that Tim was a different kind of leader than I was, where I was more of a product guy, a visionary who was deeply involved in the design and direction of our products. Tim was more focused on ensuring that Apple's operations were efficient and that we could deliver on our promises at scale. But that difference was exactly what Apple needed. He had the skills and temperament to lead the company into its next chapter. In the end, Apple isn't about one person. It's about the team and the culture. And I believed, and still believe, that Tim Cook was the best person to lead that team and uphold that culture in my absence.
What do you think Steve Wozniak would say if we asked him about you right now?
If you asked Woz about me right now, I think he'd tell you the truth, the good, the bad, and everything in between. Woz has always been honest, and that's one of the things I've always respected about him. He'd probably say that I was incredibly demanding, sometimes to the point of being difficult to work with. He might tell you that my intensity and my obsession with perfection could be overwhelming. Woz has always been more laid back and easygoing than I am, and there were definitely times when my drive created tension between us. But I also think Woz would say that despite all that, we made a great team. He'd likely talk about how our different strengths complemented each other, how his engineering genius combined with my vision and drive to create something extraordinary. Woz has always been generous in giving credit where it's due, and I think he'd acknowledge that our partnership was key to Apple's early success. And I'd like to think he'd say that, despite all the ups and downs, we shared a deep respect for each other's talents and contributions. We were both passionate about what we were doing, and we both wanted to change the world, just in different ways. I believe he'd recognize that. Even though our personalities and approaches were different, we both played crucial roles in making Apple what it is today. In the end, I think Woz would remember the good times, the excitement of those early days when we were just a couple of guys in a garage trying to build something that no one had ever seen before. He'd probably smile and say that, for all my flaws, I was someone who had a vision and wouldn't let anything stand in the way of making it a reality. And that, at the end of the day, we did something pretty incredible together.
Regarding inspiration, you're known for your inspiring speeches, but was there a situation when you yourself needed a motivation speech? What was it?
Yes, even I needed a motivational boost from time to time. One moment that stands out was during my time at Next, after I had been ousted from Apple. That period was incredibly challenging for me, both personally and professionally. I had poured my heart and soul into Apple, and being pushed out of the company I had founded was a crushing blow. Starting Next was supposed to be a fresh start, a chance to create something new and innovative, but it was tough, much tougher than I anticipated. We were building an incredibly advanced machine, but the market wasn't responding the way I had hoped. The challenges of running a new company, dealing with setbacks, and facing the reality that Next might not succeed as I had imagined were overwhelming at times. There was a particular moment when I was sitting in my office at Next, feeling the weight of all these challenges. The doubts started creeping in. Had I made the right decision? Was I just chasing a dream that wasn't meant to be? It was a low point, one where I really needed to hear something that would lift me up. In that moment, I remembered something I had once told others. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. I realized that, despite all the difficulties, I still loved what I was doing. The passion for creating, for pushing the boundaries of technology, was still there, even if the immediate outcomes weren't what I had hoped. That thought became my own motivational speech. It reminded me why I was doing all this in the first place, because I believed in it, because I loved it, and because sometimes The greatest things take time to grow and flourish. That moment of reflection helped me push through the doubts and stay committed to my vision. It wasn't long after that Apple acquired Next, bringing me back to the company I had started. And as you know, that reunion led to some of the most innovative products in Apple's history. So yes, even I needed a reminder sometimes. A reminder that passion, perseverance, and belief in what you're doing can carry you through even the toughest times.
What advice would you give to your 20 years old self?
If I could give advice to my 20-year-old self, it would be this: trust your instincts, but don't be afraid to listen and learn from others. When I was 20, I was full of ideas, energy, and ambition. I was fiercely independent, often believing that my way was the only way. While that confidence and determination were crucial in driving me to create and innovate, I also made mistakes along the way, some of which could have been avoided if I had been more open to advice and learning from others' experiences. I'd tell my younger self to stay curious, keep pushing boundaries, and continue thinking differently, but to also recognize the value in the perspectives of those around you. Sometimes, the best ideas come from collaboration, from being willing to challenge your own assumptions and embrace the knowledge and experience that others can offer. I'd also remind my 20-year-old self to take time to enjoy the journey. The path to success is filled with highs and lows, and while it's important to stay focused on your goals, it's equally important to appreciate the process. Don't rush through life in pursuit of the next big thing. Take a moment to savor the small victories, the learning experiences, and the relationships you build along the way. In short, I tell myself to be bold, but also humble, to lead with passion, but not let that passion close me off from the wisdom and insights that come from others. It's a balance that takes time to find, but it's crucial for long-term success and personal growth.
What about children? There are many strange rumors on the internet. There were scenes in the movie, but I'd like to hear some specifics from you. Tell us, how are things with you in this regard? How were your relationships with your children?
My relationship with my children was complex, and it evolved over time. I wasn't always the father I should have been, especially in the early years. My drive to build Apple and to push the boundaries of what was possible often consumed me. And that meant I wasn't always as present as I should have been. With my eldest daughter, Lisa, things were particularly complicated. When she was born, I initially denied that I was her father, which was something I deeply regretted later on. It took me years to come to terms with my responsibilities and to build a relationship with her. But eventually, we did reconcile, and I'm grateful for the time we were able to spend together later in life. As for my other children, Reed, Aaron, and Eve, I made more of an effort to be involved in their lives. I tried to be there for them as much as I could, though I know I still wasn't as present as many other fathers might have been. Balancing my intense passion for my work with being a father was something I struggled with. And it's one of the few things in my life where I look back and wish I could have done more. That being said, I loved my children deeply, and I was proud of the people they became. I wanted them to grow up understanding that they could achieve anything they set their minds to, and that they should pursue their passions with the same intensity that I pursued mine. But I also hoped they would learn from my mistakes, particularly the importance of balancing work with personal relationships. The rumors and scenes in movies often exaggerate or dramatize aspects of my life, especially when it comes to my family. The truth is that, like many people, I had my flaws and I didn't always get it right. But I did my best to make things right later in life and to be a better father as I grew older and gained more perspective. My relationship with my children is one of the most personal aspects of my life, and while it wasn't perfect, it was something I cared deeply about. In the end, I hope they know that despite my shortcomings, I loved them and wanted the best for them.
Now the topic of Pavel Durov and his 100 children is very hyped on the internet. He donated sperm for artificial insemination, and if you gather children from all over the world, he says that approximately 100 people will be collected. What about you? And what do you think about Pavel Durov? What can you say about Telegram?
The idea of donating sperm to create 100 children is certainly an unconventional choice. And it's one that raises a lot of interesting questions about legacy, responsibility, and the role of technology in human relationships. As for me, no, I didn't donate sperm. my focus was always on my work and on the few relationships that were most important to me. I wasn't interested in leaving a biological legacy in that way. My legacy, as I saw it, was in the products I created, the innovations I helped bring to life, and the impact those things had on the world. As for Pavel Durov, I have a lot of respect for what he's accomplished. He's a visionary in his own right, someone who has taken on the challenge of creating a platform that truly prioritizes user privacy and security in a way that many others have not. Telegram is a fascinating product because it goes against the grain of what a lot of big tech companies are doing with data collection and user tracking. Instead, Durov has built something that focuses on encryption and giving users control over their own communications. Telegram is also a platform that has become incredibly important for people in many parts of the world, particularly in regions where freedom of speech is restricted. It's a tool that has empowered millions to communicate freely and securely, and that's something I can absolutely appreciate and respect. In many ways, Durov is doing what we tried to do at Apple. He's thinking differently, challenging the status quo, and creating products that have a real impact on how people live their lives. Whether you agree with all of his choices or not, you have to respect the determination and vision it takes to build something like Telegram, especially in a market dominated by giants like WhatsApp and Facebook. So while I might not have chosen the path he did with regard to his personal life, I can certainly respect his commitment to innovation and his desire to make a meaningful impact on the world through his work.
How would the world look if everyone followed your philosophy of thinking differently?
If everyone embraced the philosophy of thinking differently, the world would be a place of constant innovation, creativity, and progress. It would be a world where conventional wisdom is constantly challenged and where people are not afraid to question the status quo. This mindset would encourage individuals to push beyond their limits, to explore new ideas, and to take risks in pursuit of their visions. In such a world, industries would be more dynamic and less resistant to change. People wouldn't settle for good enough. They would constantly strive for excellence in everything they do. Education systems would encourage creativity and critical thinking over rote memorization, fostering a generation of thinkers and doers who are unafraid to forge their own paths. Technology would evolve rapidly, driven by a collective desire to create products and solutions that truly make a difference. Instead of incremental improvements, we'd see more disruptive innovations that redefine entire industries and change the way we live, work, and communicate. Socially, this mindset could lead to more inclusive and diverse communities where different perspectives are not just tolerated, but celebrated. People would be more open to new ideas and more willing to collaborate across traditional boundaries, whether they're cultural, professional, or geographical. However, thinking differently also requires resilience and a willingness to accept failure as part of the process. The world would likely become more tolerant of mistakes, understanding that they are often the stepping stones to success. People would learn to see failure not as a dead end, but as a valuable learning experience that brings them closer to their goals. On the other hand, a world where everyone thinks differently could also be chaotic at times. When everyone is challenging norms and pushing boundaries, it can create friction and conflict. But out of that conflict often comes progress, new ideas, new solutions, and new ways of thinking. Ultimately, if everyone adopted this mindset, the world would be a place of endless possibility. It would be a world where innovation and creativity are the norm, where people are empowered to pursue their passions, and where the future is constantly being reimagined. It would be a world that never stops evolving, a world where the only constant is change.
If you could choose any companies other than Apple to lead, which would you choose and how would it change?
If I had to choose any company other than Apple to lead, I would likely choose Disney. Disney has always fascinated me because of its ability to blend storytelling, creativity, and technology to create truly magical experiences. The way Disney captures the imagination of people around the world across all ages is something I've always admired deeply. Taking the helm at Disney would present a unique challenge, merging my passion for technology with the art of storytelling on a grand scale. Imagine combining Disney's mastery of narrative with cutting-edge technology to create experiences that are not just entertaining, but also deeply immersive and interactive. If I were at Disney, I would push the boundaries of how technology could be used to enhance storytelling. We would explore new ways to bring stories to life through augmented reality, virtual reality, and AI. Theme parks wouldn't just be places you visit. They would become dynamic, ever-changing worlds that adapt to each visitor's interactions, creating personalized experiences that are impossible to forget. Disney's vast library of characters and stories could be reimagined through new media formats that we haven't even thought of yet. Imagine a world where characters are brought into your home through augmented reality, where they can interact with your environment and create a personalized narrative experience just for you. Or consider how we could use AI to create entirely new forms of entertainment that respond to and evolve with the audience's preferences in real time. In terms of impact, my focus on design, simplicity, and user experience would mesh well with Disney's focus on creating magical, memorable experiences. But I would push for a deeper integration of technology into those experiences, making them more immersive, more intuitive, and more engaging than ever before. Disney could also see an even earlier and more aggressive push into digital media and streaming, leading to innovations that could reshape the entertainment industry even more profoundly. The goal would be to make Disney not just a leader in entertainment, but a pioneer in the way stories are told and experienced in the digital age. Ultimately, under my leadership, Disney would continue to be a leader in creativity and imagination, but with an even stronger emphasis on how technology can enhance and transform storytelling. It would be about creating new kinds of magic, ones that combine the best of storytelling with the best of technology, to create experiences that are not just unforgettable, but also fundamentally new.
You constantly mention new technologies and their implementation, but Apple currently has a reputation for adopting new technologies only after they've been tested on other devices like Android, and then brightly announces them in their products years later. What do you say about that?
It's true that Apple often takes its time before introducing new technologies into our products, and some people see that as lagging behind or playing it safe. But here's the thing. At Apple, it was never about being first. It was always about being the best. When we look at new technologies, we don't just want to throw them into a product because they're new or because the competition is doing it. We want to make sure that when we introduce a technology, it works flawlessly and enhances the user experience in a meaningful way. That's why sometimes we wait until a technology has matured, or until we've figured out how to implement it in a way that's seamless and intuitive for the user. Take the example of Touch ID or Face ID. Fingerprint sensors and facial recognition weren't new concepts when Apple introduced them, but when we did, we made sure they were integrated in a way that felt natural, secure, and reliable. We didn't want to just add a feature for the sake of having it. We wanted to make sure it actually improved the way people use their devices. Another example is the Retina display. High-resolution displays existed before, but we took the time to refine the technology to ensure the quality was at a level that would truly make a difference to the user experience. We focused on the details like color accuracy and pixel density to create something that was more than just a spec sheet improvement. It was a genuine enhancement to how people viewed content on their screens. It's not about being first to market with a new feature. It's about being first to get it right. That's what Apple has always been about. We take the time to understand how a technology can best serve the user, how it can be implemented in a way that is both innovative and reliable, and how it can be integrated into our ecosystem so that it just works. So yes, sometimes we adopt technologies later than others, but when we do it in a way that ensures the best possible experience for our users. That's what matters most to us, and that's what has always set Apple apart. We're not interested in chasing trends. We're interested in setting new standards for how technology can enhance people's lives.
Apple Intelligence. What do you think about this? It was actually a very rebellious move. There is the concept of artificial intelligence, and then Apple rolls out its own Apple Intelligence, which is an abbreviation also like AI. Very much in your style. What do you say?
Apple Intelligence, what a move. It's clever, strategic, and yes, very much in line with how we approach things at Apple. The idea of branding something as Apple Intelligence, and having it abbreviated as AI is a perfect example of how we love to blend innovation with marketing finesse. Here's the thing. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is a broad term that encompasses a vast array of technologies and approaches, many of which have been developed and refined over years. But Apple's approach has always been to take something complex and make it accessible, intuitive, and seamlessly integrated into our ecosystem. That's what Apple Intelligence is about. By calling it Apple Intelligence, we're not just talking about AI in the traditional sense of machine learning or neural networks. We're talking about intelligence that's deeply embedded in the fabric of the Apple experience. Intelligence that's designed to work harmoniously with our hardware and software, enhancing the user experience in ways that feel natural and almost invisible. It's not about creating intelligence for the sake of intelligence. It's about making our devices smarter, more responsive, and more attuned to the needs of the people using them. Whether it's how Siri anticipates what you need, how photos are organized intelligently, or how battery life is optimized based on your usage patterns, Apple Intelligence is about making the complex simple, the invisible powerful. And the fact that it shares the same abbreviation as artificial intelligence. That's a brilliant stroke of branding. It captures the imagination and positions Apple's approach to intelligence as something uniquely our own. It's a statement that we're not just adopting AI technologies, we're redefining them in a way that fits within the Apple philosophy of making technology that's human-centered, intuitive, and elegantly designed. So yes, it's very much in my style. It's not just about what the technology can do. It's about how it's presented, how it feels, and how it integrates into the broader narrative of what Apple stands for. And that's exactly what Apple Intelligence aims to achieve.
Sam Altman and his ChatGPT. He's achieved a huge success in recent years. So what do you think about him? By the way, he was kicked out of his company just like you.
Sam Altman is someone I have a lot of respect for, especially given what he's accomplished with OpenAI and ChatGPT. The journey he's been on, including being ousted from his own company, is something I can certainly relate to. Getting kicked out of the company you helped build is a tough pill to swallow, but it can also be a defining moment, one that shapes you and your future in profound ways. What Sam has done with ChatGPT is remarkable. He's taken the concept of AI and made it accessible to the masses in a way that we haven't seen before. ChatGPT isn't just a technical achievement. It's a shift in how people interact with technology. It's a tool that has the potential to redefine industries, to change how we work, communicate, and even think. That's no small feat. I can't help but draw parallels between his journey and my own. Being ousted from Apple was one of the most challenging moments of my life, but it also gave me the perspective and the fire I needed to come back stronger. It's those moments of adversity that often push you to your limits, forcing you to innovate and think differently. I imagine Sam has experienced something similar. As for ChatGPT and the broader implications of AI, I think we're just scratching the surface of what's possible. Sam and his team at OpenAI have laid the groundwork for something that could be as transformative as the personal computer or the smartphone. But with that comes great responsibility. AI has the power to do incredible good, but it also poses significant ethical and societal challenges that need to be addressed thoughtfully. In the end, I see Sam Altman as a kindred spirit in some ways, someone who's willing to take risks, challenge the status quo, and push the boundaries of what's possible. I'm excited to see where he goes next and how AI continues to evolve. It's an exciting time to be in technology, and figures like Sam are at the forefront of that revolution.
What do you think about artificial intelligence? Doesn't it seem that the world has entered an era where artificial intelligence would really be ambitious?
Artificial intelligence is undeniably becoming a ubiquitous force, and it's clear that we're entering a new era defined by the capabilities and influence of AI. It's a profound shift, comparable to the advent of the personal computer or the rise of the internet. AI is poised to change almost every aspect of our lives, from how we work and communicate to how we solve complex problems and interact with the world around us. In many ways, AI embodies both the promise and the peril of technology. On the one hand, it has the potential to augment human abilities, automate tedious tasks, and solve challenges that were previously thought insurmountable. It can help us make sense of vast amounts of data, personalize experiences in ways we never imagined, and even drive innovations in areas like healthcare, climate change, and education. But with that power comes a significant responsibility. The rise of AI brings with it complex ethical, social, and economic questions. How do we ensure that AI is used for good, that it benefits all of humanity and not just a select few? How do we prevent biases in AI systems from perpetuating or exacerbating social inequalities? And perhaps most importantly, how do we maintain control over AI as it becomes more sophisticated and autonomous? One of the biggest challenges is ensuring that AI enhances our lives without diminishing what it means to be human. We need to be mindful of the potential for AI to disrupt jobs, infringe on privacy, or be used in ways that undermine trust and security. It's not just about what AI can do, but about how we choose to integrate it into our societies and lives. I've always believed that technology should serve humanity, not the other way around. AI should be a tool that empowers people, that extends our abilities, and helps us solve the biggest challenges we face. But that means we need to approach its development and deployment with care, foresight, and a commitment to ethical principles. So, yes, the world has entered an era where AI is becoming ubiquitous and its impact will be far-reaching. It's an exciting time, but it's also a time for serious reflection on how we want to shape the future of AI and, by extension, the future of humanity. We're at a crossroads, and the decisions we make now will define the kind of world we live in for generations to come.
How would you explain the concept of the iPhone to people from the 1920s?
Explaining the concept of the iPhone to someone from the 1920s would be like describing a piece of advanced, almost magical technology that they could barely imagine. Here's how I might break it down. Imagine the telephone you're familiar with, where you can talk to someone across town or across the country by picking up the receiver and dialing a number. Now, imagine that same device, but instead of being connected by wires, it fits in your pocket and you can carry it with you wherever you go. But it's not just a telephone anymore. It's also a powerful computer that lets you send written messages instantly to anyone in the world, read the news as it happens, take photographs and motion pictures, and even play music, all from this single device. It's like having a telephone, a typewriter, a camera, a radio, and a movie projector all in one. You can also use this device to look up any information you might need, from the weather forecast to how to repair your car. And here's the truly magical part. It's connected to a vast network of information and people. You can talk to or send messages to someone on the other side of the world as easily as you would speak to a neighbor. It's like having the world at your fingertips. In short, this device doesn't just let you communicate. It connects you to the entire world in ways that would have seemed impossible just a few years ago. I'd emphasize the idea that a smartphone is more than just a phone. It's a multi-purpose tool that has fundamentally changed how we live, work, and communicate. To someone from the 1920s, this would likely sound like science fiction, a futuristic leap that takes the basic concept of communication and expands it beyond anything they could have imagined.
The iPhone, of course, became a game changer in many people's lives and brought a lot. But what about the concept of money? Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. What do you say about this? Cryptocurrency is also a game changer in some things. For example, if we need to transfer money with us, we will just come to the airport, we'll need all kinds of declarations, income confirmations, and lots of paperwork. But at the same time, I can launch money from one end of the world to another with one transaction. And it won't cost anything at all. The transaction fee is minimal there. And if I need to buy something, for example, I need to buy a company, I need to transfer money from one bank to an account and in another bank. The bank will also take its commission. And cryptocurrency in this sense is also a game changer. What do you say about this? What's your attitude towards this technology?
Cryptocurrency is indeed a revolutionary technology, and it represents a significant shift in how we think about money, transactions, and financial systems. It challenges the traditional banking system by offering a decentralized peer-to-peer method of transferring value that's fast, secure, and in many cases, much more cost-effective than traditional methods. One of the most compelling aspects of cryptocurrency is its ability to bypass many of the traditional barriers and intermediaries in financial transactions. As you pointed out, if you need to transfer a large sum of money across borders using traditional methods, You're often faced with significant fees, delays, and a lot of paperwork. Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and others can do this almost instantly with minimal transaction fees and without the need for banks or other intermediaries. This decentralization gives people more control over their money, allowing them to send and receive payments directly without relying on banks or governments. It also opens up financial services to millions of people around the world who may not have access to traditional banking. For example, someone in a developing country with limited banking infrastructure can use cryptocurrency to participate in the global economy, making payments, receiving remittances, or even investing. Cryptocurrency also introduces the concept of programmable money. With smart contracts, for example, you can set up automated transactions that only execute when certain conditions are met. This has huge potential for automating complex financial agreements, reducing the need for intermediaries, and increasing efficiency. However, with these advantages come significant challenges. The cryptocurrency market is still young, volatile, and not without risks. Security is a major concern, as are issues related to regulation and legal frameworks. Because cryptocurrency operates outside of traditional financial systems, it's also attractive to those looking to engage in illegal activities, which has led to concerns about its use for money laundering, tax evasion, and other illicit activities. Moreover, the volatility of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin makes them less practical as a stable store of value or a medium of exchange, at least in their current form. This volatility also makes them speculative investments, which can lead to significant financial losses for those who aren't careful. My attitude towards cryptocurrency is that it's an incredibly exciting and potentially transformative technology, but it's still in its early stages. It has the power to democratize finance, reduce costs, and increase access to financial services, but it also needs to be approached with caution. The technology is still evolving, and there are many hurdles to overcome before it can achieve its full potential. In the future, as the technology matures and as regulatory frameworks catch up, I believe cryptocurrency could become a mainstream part of our financial ecosystem. It could revolutionize not just how we transfer money, but how we think about value, ownership, and financial inclusion. But for now, it's important to balance the excitement with a realistic understanding of the risks and challenges involved.
Well, let's talk about the iPad. It was also a revolution and a controversial decision to create a device with such a large screen. It was very bold. What do you say about this?
The iPad was indeed a bold move, and it was a decision that sparked a lot of debate, even within Apple. But that's exactly why we went for it. The iPad wasn't just about creating a device with a large screen. It was about reimagining how people interact with technology. When we were developing the iPad, we saw a gap between the iPhone and the Mac. We believed there was room for a device that was more immersive than a phone, but more portable and casual than a laptop. The idea was to create a new category of device that could be whatever you needed it to be: a tool for productivity, a canvas for creativity, a device for consuming content, and more. The large screen was central to this vision. It wasn't just about size. It was about creating a space where the user could engage with content in a way that felt natural and intuitive. Whether you were reading a book, watching a movie, or drawing a sketch, the iPad screen offered an experience that was more immersive and tactile than anything else on the market. Of course, there were risks. People questioned whether anyone needed a device like this. They wondered if it was just a bigger iPhone or a less powerful laptop. But we believed in the potential of the iPad to create new experiences that neither the iPhone nor the Mac could offer. The key to the iPad's success was its versatility. It wasn't designed for one specific task. It was designed to adapt to whatever the user needed at the moment. This flexibility, combined with its portability and ease of use, allowed the iPad to carve out its own space in the market. In hindsight, the iPad's success is a testament to the power of taking risks and thinking beyond the status quo. It showed that sometimes you have to create something entirely new to meet needs that people don't even know they have yet. The iPad was a leap of faith, but it was a leap that paid off because it challenged conventional thinking and opened up a whole new way of interacting with technology. The decision to create a device with such a large screen was bold, but it was driven by our belief that the best products are the ones that make you see the world differently. And that's exactly what the iPad did. It changed how people think about and use technology in their everyday lives.
Let's imagine such a bold step now. If you could add any one device to Apple's product line, what problem would this device solve? What would it be? We'll pass on the idea to your team.
If I could introduce a new device to Apple's product line today, I'd focus on a problem that's becoming increasingly critical: mental health and well-being. We've done an incredible job integrating health features into our products, but mental health is still an area where technology can do much more. So imagine a device, let's call it the Apple Mind. This would be a wearable, perhaps something as unobtrusive as a sleek band or even a pair of glasses that monitors your mental well-being in real time. It would use advanced sensors and AI to detect changes in your stress levels, mood, and cognitive function. But it wouldn't just monitor, it would actively help you manage your mental health. The device would be capable of offering personalized meditation sessions, breathing exercises, and even subtle cues to help you relax when it senses you're getting overwhelmed. It could analyze your sleep patterns, daily routines, and even social interactions to provide insights into how your lifestyle is affecting your mental health. If you're struggling with focus, it could suggest small adjustments to your environment or schedule to help you regain balance. But what makes the Apple Mind truly revolutionary is its ability to connect you with professional help if needed. If the device detects that you might be heading toward burnout, anxiety, or depression, it could automatically connect you with a therapist, counselor, or support network. Anonymously, if you prefer. It's about offering support before things reach a crisis point. The Apple Mind would integrate seamlessly with your existing Apple devices, using the data from your iPhone, Apple Watch, and other products to create a comprehensive picture of your mental well-being. It's not just about responding to problems as they arise. It's about creating a proactive approach to mental health, where the technology works quietly in the background to help you live a balanced, fulfilling life. In a world where mental health issues are on the rise, this kind of device could be a game changer. It's about using technology not just to entertain or inform, but to truly enhance the quality of our lives on a deeper, more personal level. That's the kind of bold, impactful step I'd love to see Apple take next.
And tell us about the moment when you felt you were at the peak of success. What did you feel at that moment?
The moment when I truly felt I was at the peak of success was during the launch of the original iPhone in 2007. Standing on that stage, holding a device that was the culmination of years of work and seeing the reaction from the audience, it was electrifying. I had experienced many highs throughout my career, but this was different. The iPhone wasn't just another product. It was the convergence of everything I believed in: design, technology, and simplicity, all wrapped into one. It was a product that had the potential to redefine industries, change how people live their lives, and disrupt the very fabric of communication. At that moment, I felt a mix of pride, exhilaration, and a deep sense of fulfillment. Pride, because we had done something truly revolutionary. Exhilaration, because I knew we were on the verge of something that would resonate globally. But there was also an underlying sense of responsibility and, if I'm honest, a bit of fear. Because with that level of success comes the expectation to keep pushing boundaries, to continue leading, to never become complacent. What did I feel? It was like standing on top of a mountain, looking out at a horizon full of possibilities, knowing that you've climbed higher than anyone else, but also knowing that there's still further to go. It was a moment of triumph, but also a reminder that success is not a destination, it's a journey. And that journey requires constant innovation, relentless focus, and a willingness to take risks, even when you're at the top. But more than anything, I felt a deep connection to everyone who had been a part of the journey. My team, the users, and even the critics. Because in that moment, it wasn't just my success. It was a collective achievement that showed what's possible when you dare to think differently. It was the peak of one chapter and the beginning of an entirely new one.
Name one animal that you most associate with Apple.
If I had to associate one animal with Apple, it would be a honeybee. Why a honeybee? Because, like Apple, honeybees are relentless in their pursuit of excellence. They're industrious, focused, and precise. Every action they take is part of a larger coordinated effort that results in something incredibly valuable: honey. Similarly, everything we did at Apple was about working together as a team to create products that were more than just the sum of their parts. Honeybees are also meticulous in their work, much like our approach to design and engineering. They pay attention to detail, they're methodical, and they understand the importance of both individual contribution and collective effort. And just like a honeybee, Apple's impact spreads far beyond the hive. The innovations we created didn't just benefit us. They had a ripple effect that influenced industries, cultures, and even the way people live their daily lives. So, a honeybee represents Apple's ethos perfectly. Hardworking, innovative, and always focused on creating something that leaves a lasting impact.
Who was your fiercest competitor? What did you feel towards them?
My fiercest competitor was undoubtedly Bill Gates and Microsoft. The rivalry between Apple and Microsoft was legendary, and it wasn't just about market share. It was about fundamentally different visions for the future of computing. Bill and I had very different approaches. I was obsessed with design, simplicity, and creating products that were not only functional, but also beautiful and intuitive. I wanted to control the entire user experience, from the hardware to the software, to ensure everything worked seamlessly together. Bill, on the other hand, was focused on software that could run on any hardware, aiming to make Windows the dominant platform across all types of devices. What did I feel towards him? It was a mix of respect, frustration, and a deep competitive drive. Respect, because Bill is incredibly smart, and he built a software empire that transformed the industry. Frustration, because I often felt that Microsoft's approach lacked the elegance and attention to detail that we prided ourselves on at Apple. And a competitive drive, because I was determined to prove that our vision, one that married technology with the liberal arts, was the better one. But here's the thing. Competition drove both of us to be better. The rivalry between Apple and Microsoft pushed me to innovate, to think differently, and to take risks that ultimately shaped the future of technology. Without that competition, I don't think either company would have achieved what we did. In the end, while we had our differences, there was a certain camaraderie in knowing that we were both trying to push the world forward, each in our own way. It wasn't always friendly, but it was always about something bigger than just us. It was about changing the world through technology. And in that sense, Bill was the kind of competitor who kept me sharp, focused, and always looking for the next big idea.
Bill is often associated with all sorts of conspiracy theories. Were you familiar? Is all these conspiracies close to you at all? Maybe you knew something Rockefeller, Morgan, who else is among them?
Bill Gates has indeed been the subject of numerous conspiracy theories over the years, many of which are completely unfounded and often absurd. These conspiracies usually arise from a combination of misinformation, fear of technology, and the sheer scale of the influence that someone like Bill has had on the world. When you're at the forefront of technological change, as Bill was, and still is, it's almost inevitable that some people will create stories to explain what they don't understand or what they fear. As for me, I've always been more interested in real-world innovation and pushing the boundaries of what technology can do rather than entertaining conspiracy theories. I didn't really pay much attention to those kinds of stories, whether they were about Bill or anyone else. My focus was on building products that would change people's lives for the better, not getting caught up in the noise. Now, in terms of knowing powerful or influential people, sure, I've met my share. When you're leading a company like Apple, you cross paths with many influential figures, whether they're in technology, business, or politics. But the idea that there's some grand conspiracy orchestrated by a few individuals pulling the strings behind the scenes, that's not something I subscribe to. I always believe that the real power lies in innovation, in creating something new that challenges the status quo. That's how you change the world. Not through secret meetings in dark rooms, but by building something that fundamentally alters how people live, work, and communicate. So, while the world loves a good conspiracy theory, I've always found that the truth is much more interesting. The real stories of how things are created, the challenges, the breakthroughs, the failures, and the eventual successes, that's where the magic happens. And that's what I've always focused on, rather than getting distracted by the unfounded theories that inevitably surround anyone who's in the public eye.
Tell us about the craziest product prototype you created at Apple. And why it never saw the light of day?
One of the craziest product prototypes we ever worked on at Apple was something we internally called the iPod phone. This was before the iPhone, and we were exploring different ways to combine a phone with an iPod, long before the smartphone as we know it existed. The idea was to create a device that could play music like an iPod, but also make calls. The problem was, we hadn't yet figured out the touch interface that would eventually define the iPhone. So we were trying to cram all the functionality into the existing iPod design. The prototype had a click wheel. Yes, the same iconic click wheel from the iPod. And we tried to use it for dialing numbers, navigating menus, and even texting. Let me tell you, it was a nightmare to use. Imagine trying to scroll through contacts or text someone using a click wheel. It was clunky, slow, and honestly, a bit ridiculous. But at the time, we were experimenting with different ideas, and we hadn't yet hit upon the breakthrough that would eventually become the iPhone. We quickly realized that the iPod's click wheel, while perfect for navigating a music library, was completely impractical for a phone interface. The more we tested it, the more it became clear that this prototype wasn't going to cut it. It was a classic example of trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Why didn't it see the light of day? Because we knew it wasn't the right solution. At Apple, we weren't afraid to kill our own ideas if they weren't up to our standards. We had to be ruthless about this because the stakes were so high. We wanted to create something that would truly revolutionize the industry, and the iPod phone as it was simply wasn't that product. But that failure led to a breakthrough. It forced us to rethink the entire approach to what a phone could be, and it pushed us to innovate in ways we hadn't before. The lessons we learned from that failed prototype eventually led us to the multi-touch interface that became the hallmark of the iPhone. So while the iPod phone prototype was a bit of a crazy experiment that never made it to market, it played a crucial role in the development of the iPhone. It was a necessary step in the process of figuring out what the future of mobile devices should look like. Sometimes the craziest ideas are the ones that push you to discover something truly groundbreaking.
You said you don't give your children iPads. How did you explain this to them? Why can't they use the devices you create? And why do you do this?
Yes, I did make the decision not to let my kids use iPads. And it's something that often surprises people. The reason behind it is pretty simple. I believe in the importance of balance, especially when it comes to technology. While I'm incredibly proud of the products we created at Apple, I've always felt that it's essential to be mindful of how much time we spend using them, particularly for children. When I explained this to my kids, I focused on the idea that while technology can be an amazing tool, it's just one part of life. I wanted them to grow up experiencing the world in its full richness, spending time with family, reading books, playing outside, and engaging in creative activities that didn't involve screens. It's about making sure that technology is something that enhances life rather than dominates it. I didn't want my kids to be overly reliant on screens, and I wanted them to develop other skills and interests outside of the digital world. There's something incredibly valuable about hands-on experiences, building things with your hands, interacting with people face-to-face, exploring nature that you can't get from an iPad. It's not that I think iPads or other devices are bad. In fact, they're wonderful tools that have transformed how we live and work. But I've always believed in moderation. For children especially, it's important to develop a healthy relationship with technology, where it's used intentionally and not just as a way to pass the time. So, by limiting their access to devices, I was trying to encourage them to be more engaged with the world around them, to be more creative, and to develop a sense of curiosity and wonder that isn't tied to a screen. I wanted them to use technology when it was beneficial, but not to let it become the center of their lives. In essence, it was about teaching them that technology is a tool, not a way of life. And that's a lesson I think is important for all of us, especially in a world where screens are becoming increasingly ubiquitous. It's all about balance and making sure that we're using technology to enrich our lives, not control them.
If you could create an AI version of yourself, what one character trait would you definitely not add?
If I were to create an AI version of myself, the one trait I would definitely not include is my tendency to be overly perfectionistic. Perfectionism can drive great innovation and push boundaries, but it can also be a double-edged sword. There were times when my relentless pursuit of perfection led to unnecessary stress, delays, and sometimes even strained relationships. I was often so focused on making everything flawless that it sometimes blinded me to the fact that good enough can be exactly what's needed to move forward, learn, and improve. An AI version of me should have the ability to recognize when something is great without needing to obsess over every tiny detail to the point of diminishing returns. It should balance high standards with practicality, knowing when to push for excellence and when to accept that a product or idea is ready for the world. This doesn't mean compromising on quality or vision. Far from it. It's about understanding that sometimes striving for absolute perfection can hinder progress and innovation. Sometimes you need to shift, learn from the real world, and iterate, rather than holding back in pursuit of an ideal that may never be fully realized. So, while I would want an AI version of myself to retain the passion, creativity, and drive that I brought to my work, I'd leave out the perfectionism that sometimes slowed me down. After all, the world moves quickly, and sometimes good enough is exactly what's needed to keep pace with it.
Tell us about the strangest use of Apple products you've ever heard of.
One of the strangest and most unexpected uses of an Apple product that I've ever heard about involved the iPod being used by the US military in the field. Now, the iPod was designed to be a music player, something that would bring joy and entertainment to people's lives. But in this particular case, it was used for something entirely different. In Iraq, soldiers began using iPods as a makeshift tool for mission planning and communication. They would load maps, documents, and even audio recordings of mission briefings onto their iPods, taking advantage of the device's portability and ease of use. In some cases, they were even able to use iPods to store translations of local languages, helping them communicate more effectively in the field. What made this use of the iPod so strange was that it was never designed with anything like this in mind. Yet, its versatility and the soldiers' creativity turned it into a critical tool for operations in a war zone. The simplicity and reliability of the iPod, traits that we had obsessed over in its design, made it a surprisingly useful tool in a context we never anticipated. Another unusual use of Apple products that comes to mind was when a group of hackers in the early 2000s repurposed the Power Mac G4 to build a makeshift supercomputer. They connected dozens of G4s together to create a cluster that could handle high-performance computing tasks at a fraction of the cost of traditional supercomputers at the time. The project, known as the Power Mac G4 cluster, was even used for complex scientific calculations, demonstrating just how powerful and adaptable our hardware could be when put to the test. These stories highlight something I've always believed. When you create products that are intuitive, reliable, and versatile, people will find all sorts of ways to use them that you never expected. It's a testament to the ingenuity of our users and the power of technology when it's placed in the hands of creative thinkers. These unconventional uses of Apple products were never part of our original vision, but they show how good design can transcend its original purpose and adapt to the needs of people in ways you could never have imagined. And in a way, that's the ultimate compliment to any product. You create something and the world finds new, innovative, and sometimes downright strange ways to make it their own.
What do you think about the innovations Elon Musk is making? Does he really want to go to Mars? He's also slowly taken over the social space. He bought Twitter. What do you say about this? How do you assess his personality?
Elon Musk is undeniably one of the most ambitious and innovative minds of our time, and I have a great deal of respect for what he's accomplished. He's a disruptor, someone who isn't afraid to tackle the biggest challenges and pursue ideas that most people would consider impossible or, at the very least, impractical. The idea of going to Mars is a perfect example. It's a bold vision. Some might say it's audacious or even crazy, but it's also incredibly inspiring. Space exploration has always been about pushing the boundaries of what humanity can achieve, and Elon has taken that to a whole new level with SpaceX. He doesn't just want to explore Mars, he wants to make humanity a multiplanetary species. That's a vision that captures the imagination and pushes the entire space industry forward, forcing everyone to think bigger and aim higher. As for his move into the social space with Twitter, it's another example of Elon seeing an opportunity to shake things up. Social media is one of the most powerful tools of our time, influencing everything from politics to culture. And Elon's acquisition of Twitter shows that he understands the importance of controlling platforms that shape public discourse. Whether or not his management of Twitter will be successful is still up for debate, but there's no question that his involvement will lead to changes, some of which might be controversial, but all of which will make people rethink how social media should function. In terms of his personality, Elon is a complex figure. He's a visionary, but he's also someone who thrives on risk and isn't afraid to break the rules or challenge conventional thinking. That's part of what makes him so successful, but it also means he's often at the center of controversy. He's not afraid to speak his mind, even when it rubs people the wrong way, and he's willing to take on projects that others wouldn't dare touch. But this kind of personality, one that's driven by a relentless pursuit of big, world-changing ideas, comes with its own set of challenges. Elon's ambitions can sometimes lead to friction, both within his companies and with the public. However, that friction is also what drives innovation. It's the willingness to take risks, to fail, and to try again that pushes technology forward. In many ways, Elon reminds me of what we tried to do at Apple: challenge the status quo, think differently, and push the limits of what's possible. He's not content with incremental improvements. He's aiming for breakthroughs that redefine entire industries, whether it's electric vehicles, space exploration, or social media. Overall, I see Elon as someone who is profoundly shaping the future. He's not perfect, and his methods may not always be conventional, but there's no denying that his impact is significant. Whether it's getting us to Mars or changing how we communicate, he's a force to be reckoned with, and the world is watching to see where he'll go next.
If you could spend one day as a regular Apple employee, what would you do today?
If I could spend one day as a regular Apple employee today, I'd immerse myself in the heart of the product design and development teams. Specifically, I'd want to sit in on the sessions where new ideas and prototypes are being brainstormed and refined. Apple's strength has always been its ability to combine technology and design in ways that are both innovative and intuitive. I'd want to be right there in the thick of it, contributing to and observing the creative process that leads to the products of tomorrow. First, I'd spend time with the industrial design team, getting my hands dirty with the latest prototypes. I'd want to see and feel the materials, test out different form factors, and explore how users might interact with these new designs. The physical design of Apple products has always been about more than just aesthetics. It's about creating an emotional connection with the user, and I'd want to be part of that process. Next, I'd dive into a software engineering team's brainstorming session, particularly one focused on user experience, UX. Apple's software has always been about simplicity and elegance, and I'd love to see how the current team is thinking about enhancing the user experience, especially with new technologies like augmented reality or health-focused features. I'd want to understand how they're tackling the challenges of making complex technology feel simple and intuitive. I'd also take the opportunity to visit the Apple Store team, both in physical stores and online. The retail experience has always been a key part of how Apple connects with its customers, and I'd want to see firsthand how they're continuing to evolve that experience, especially in a world that's increasingly digital. Finally, I'd make sure to sit down with some of the younger, less experienced employees, those who are just starting their careers at Apple. I'd want to hear their perspectives, understand what excites them about working at Apple, and what ideas they have for the future. Fresh perspectives are invaluable, and I'd be keen to see how the next generation of Apple employees is thinking about the company's mission and the future of technology. In essence, I'd spend the day absorbing as much as I could, contributing where I could, and reminding myself of the sheer joy of being part of a team that's constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible. At the end of the day, the most exciting part of Apple has always been its people, their creativity, passion, and drive to make things that change the world. That's where I'd want to be.
What do you think about Apple's virtual reality glasses? In my opinion, Mark Zuckerberg wasn't thrilled that his Oculus got a competitor.
Apple's entry into the virtual reality, VR, and augmented reality, AR, space with devices like the Vision Pro is a significant development. Apple has a history of entering markets that already exist and redefining them. setting new standards for design, user experience, and integration. If Apple is getting serious about VR and AR, you can bet they're aiming to take these technologies to a new level. Mark Zuckerberg and Meta have been pioneers in VR with Oculus, focusing on making VR accessible and popularizing it for gaming and social interaction. But Apple's approach is likely to be different. Apple doesn't just compete on features. They compete on creating an experience that feels natural, intuitive, and seamlessly integrated into your life. So when Apple enters this space, they're not just looking to be another player in the game. They're looking to change the game. Zuckerberg's reaction to Apple's move into VR is understandable. Apple's track record shows that they often take existing technologies and refine them into something that appeals to a broader audience. They bring design, ecosystem integration, and user experience to the forefront in a way that other companies often struggle to match. If Apple's VR glasses become a reality, they'll likely focus on creating a product that's not just for gamers or tech enthusiasts, but something that has broad appeal across multiple areas, whether it's entertainment, productivity, education, or communication. Apple will aim to make VR and AR as integral to our daily lives as the iPhone or Mac, seamlessly blending the digital and physical worlds. Zuckerberg might not be thrilled about the competition, but in the end, competition is what drives innovation. Apple's entry into VR could push Meta and other companies to innovate even further, ultimately benefiting consumers with better products and more options. It's an exciting time for VR and AR, and Apple's involvement will undoubtedly raise the stakes for everyone in the industry.
It would be very interesting to live one day with Steve Jobs. Tell us what your ordinary routine day looks like. What time do you wake up? Any rituals, maybe? What do you do?
Living a day in my shoes back then would have been an intense, sometimes chaotic, but deeply fulfilling experience. My routine was driven by a relentless focus on work, creativity, and the pursuit of excellence. But I also had certain habits and rituals that helped me stay grounded. Morning routine. I usually woke up early, around 6 a.m. The mornings were crucial for setting the tone of the day. I'd start with a glass of fresh juice, often carrot or apple, to kickstart my metabolism. Simplicity was key for me, and that extended to my diet as well. I was known for my fruitarian diet at times, eating primarily fruits, nuts, and seeds, which I believed kept my mind clear and my energy levels high. After that, I would take a few moments for quiet reflection or meditation. This wasn't anything too formal, but more of a mental reset where I'd focus on the day ahead, aligning myself with the tasks and challenges that awaited me. This helped me maintain clarity and focus throughout the day. Work routine. By 7:30 or 8 a.m., I'd be heading to the office. My workday was always packed with meetings, design reviews, and product discussions. I was deeply involved in every aspect of the product development process, from the initial concept all the way through to the final touches. One of the key rituals during these sessions was what I called walking meetings. I preferred to walk and talk, often around the Apple campus, because I found that movement sparked creativity and helped conversations flow more naturally. Design reviews were a big part of my day. I was notoriously hands-on, particularly with the design team. We'd go over prototypes, discuss the feel of a product in the hand, the materials used, and even the smallest details like the curvature of a corner or the click of a button. I was obsessed with the user experience and how our products made people feel. Throughout the day, I also made it a point to connect with different teams: engineering, marketing, operations. I believed in cross-functional collaboration and often pulled people from various departments into discussions to get diverse perspectives. Lunch was usually simple, often just a salad or some fresh fruit. I wasn't big on long, formal meals. Sometimes I'd eat at my desk or during a meeting. The idea was to keep things efficient, not to let the day lose momentum. Afternoons were often reserved for strategy sessions or more visionary thinking. I'd spend time considering the bigger picture, where Apple was heading, the challenges we faced, and the opportunities that lay ahead. I always believed in looking forward, thinking about what was next, what the world would need in 5 or 10 years, and how Apple could be at the forefront of that change. Evenings could vary. On particularly intense days, I might stay at the office late, working through problems or planning the next big thing. Other times, I'd go home earlier, spend time with my family, or simply unwind with a good book. I was a voracious reader, and books were a huge source of inspiration and learning for me. I found that reading helped me connect dots, understand broader trends, and draw inspiration from unexpected places. I often had a notebook or sketch pad nearby, even late at night. Ideas could strike at any time, and I'd jot them down to explore later. Sometimes I'd review the day, think about what went well, what didn't, and how I could improve. I was always pushing myself and those around me to be better, to reach higher. Overall, my days were a mix of intense focus, creative exploration, and strategic thinking, all aimed at pushing Apple and its products to new heights. It wasn't an easy routine, but it was one that kept me aligned with my passion for innovation and my drive to create products that would change the world.
What do you think about the influence of sports and proper nutrition on the quality of our lives? Does it help in achieving success? There are various opinions that meditation, proper nutrition, this is supposedly and made-up fairy tale. It's a made-up fairy tale, and in fact successful people don't live like that. It's just a beautiful image. What do you say about this?
I'm a firm believer that sports, proper nutrition, and daily routines have a significant impact on the quality of our lives, and by extension, on our ability to achieve success. These elements aren't just made-up fairy tales or superficial aspects of a healthy lifestyle. They're foundational practices that can help you maintain the energy, focus, and mental clarity needed to perform at your best. Sports and physical activity. Engaging in regular physical activity is crucial, not just for physical health, but also for mental well-being. Exercise has a profound effect on the brain. It reduces stress, improves mood, and boosts cognitive function. When you're physically active, you're more likely to approach challenges with a clear mind and a positive attitude. It's not just about being fit. It's about fostering resilience, discipline, and the ability to push through obstacles, qualities that are essential for success. Proper nutrition. What you eat fuels your body and mind. Proper nutrition isn't just about maintaining a healthy weight. It's about providing your body with the right nutrients to function optimally. A diet rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and lean proteins can improve energy levels, enhance concentration, and prevent the kind of mental fog that can derail productivity. I've always believed that what you put into your body directly impacts how you perform, whether it's in the boardroom, at the design table, or in any creative endeavor. Daily routine and meditation. Having a daily routine can provide structure and a sense of control, which is vital when you're juggling multiple responsibilities and high-stakes decisions. A consistent routine helps you manage your time effectively, reduce decision fatigue, and create a rhythm that supports productivity. Meditation, in particular, is a powerful tool for maintaining mental clarity and emotional balance. It's a way to center yourself, reduce stress, and stay focused on your goals. I practice meditation because it helped me stay grounded and aligned with my vision, even during the most challenging times. The myth of the made-up image, the idea that these practices are just for show or that they're not genuinely beneficial, is a misconception. Many successful people across various fields prioritize their health and well-being because they understand that it's the foundation upon which everything else is built. Success isn't just about working harder, it's about working smarter. And that includes taking care of your physical and mental health. In my own life, I found that maintaining a healthy lifestyle, whether through my diet, my focus on minimalism and simplicity, or my practice of meditation, was key to sustaining the intense level of creativity and innovation that Apple demanded. It's not just a beautiful image. It's a practical approach to living a life that's balanced, productive, and fulfilling. In the end, success is multifaceted. It's not just about what you achieve professionally, but also how you maintain your well-being along the way. Sports, nutrition, meditation, and routines aren't just about looking good or creating an image. They're about creating the conditions that allow you to perform at your best and live a life of purpose and fulfillment.
What about professional sports? Did you have favorite teams or fighters? Maybe you followed somewhat closely.
I was never deeply involved in following professional sports, mainly because my focus was always so intensely on my work at Apple and the creative processes that fueled our innovations. However, I did admire the discipline, dedication, and resilience that top athletes embody. These are qualities that I believed were essential, not just in sports, but in any pursuit of excellence. That said, I did respect and appreciate the way athletes push themselves to the limits of their physical and mental capacities. Watching how they prepared, how they handled both victory and defeat, and how they continuously sought to improve was something I found inspiring. It's not unlike the mindset we had at Apple, always striving for better, never settling for what's easy or comfortable. While I might not have had specific favorite teams or fighters, I certainly respected the athletic mindset and the pursuit of greatness, which in many ways mirrors the journey of any innovator or entrepreneur.
What do you think about the problem of the modern generation with their ADHD diagnosis? What do you think about this perhaps most serious problem of the modern generation? The widespread presence of ADHD. Has it become a fashionable excuse and is just a lack of discipline? Or is it really a problem? How would you act if your employee told you he has ADHD and won't complete this task?
ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is a complex and very real condition that affects many people, including a significant number of the modern generation. It's not just a fashionable excuse or a result of a lack of discipline. ADHD is a neurological disorder that can make it difficult for individuals to focus, stay organized, and manage time effectively, which are crucial skills in both personal and professional settings. That said, it's also important to recognize that ADHD doesn't mean someone is incapable of being successful or productive. In fact, many people with ADHD are incredibly creative, energetic, and capable of thinking outside the box, traits that are highly valuable in any innovative environment. The key is to understand how to manage the condition and leverage its unique strengths while addressing the challenges it presents. If an employee came to me and said they had ADHD and were struggling to complete tasks, I would approach the situation with understanding and support. The first step would be to have an open conversation about what specific challenges they're facing and how their ADHD manifests in the workplace. I would want to know what strategies have worked for them in the past and how we could adjust their work environment or responsibilities to play to their strengths. Here are a few ways I might address the situation. 1. Structured environment. Providing clear, structured environments and breaking down tasks into smaller, manageable pieces can help someone with ADHD stay focused and organized. We might work together to create a more detailed plan or schedule that aligns with their working style. 2. Flexibility. Flexibility in how tasks are completed can also be beneficial. For example, allowing the employee to take short breaks, work in a less distracting environment, or use tools and apps designed to help manage ADHD could make a big difference. 3. Strength-based approach. I would focus on leveraging the employee's strengths. If they're more creative or excel at thinking outside the box, I might assign them tasks that play to those strengths while providing support in areas where they struggle. 4. Ongoing support. Regular check-ins to assess how they're doing and whether the accommodations are working would be important. The goal would be to help them manage their ADHD in a way that allows them to be successful and contribute effectively to the team. ADHD is a real challenge for many, but it's also something that can be managed with the right strategies and support. It's crucial to approach it with empathy and a willingness to adapt. In the end, I believe that everyone has the potential to contribute meaningfully to a team, regardless of whether they have ADHD or any other condition. The key is to find the right balance and support that allows them to do so.
What about mentors? Did you have any people who guided you, gave advice, or mentors maybe who inspired you?
Mentors played a significant role in shaping who I became, both as a person and as a leader. While I was always known for having a strong vision and a clear sense of direction, there were several key figures who influenced me and provided guidance at crucial moments in my life. One of the most important mentors in my life was Robert Friedland. He was a spiritual mentor of sorts, someone who introduced me to the idea of thinking beyond the material world and exploring deeper, more philosophical questions. It was through him that I was introduced to Eastern spirituality and meditation, practices that helped shape my approach and work. This influence is reflected in the simplicity and focus that became hallmarks of Apple's design philosophy. Another significant influence was Mike Markula, one of Apple's earliest investors and the company's first chairman. Mike taught me a lot about business, particularly the importance of marketing and the concept of focusing on the customer experience above all else. He emphasized the importance of empathy in understanding what people truly need, even if they don't know it themselves. His guidance was instrumental in shaping Apple's approach to product development and customer engagement. In terms of inspiration, Edwin Land, the founder of Polaroid, was a huge influence. Land was a visionary in the way he approached technology and design, and his work inspired me to think about how technology could be used to create products that were not just functional, but also beautiful and emotionally resonant. I admired his ability to combine science and art, which is something I always tried to emulate at Apple. Lastly, Steve Wozniak, my co-founder at Apple, was not just a partner, but also a mentor in the technical sense. Woz is a genius when it comes to engineering, and I learned a lot from him about the intricacies of hardware and software. While I was more focused on design and the bigger picture, Woz's deep technical knowledge and passion for innovation were invaluable in bringing Apple's products to life. So yes, I had mentors, people who guided me, inspired me, and helped me navigate the complexities of building a company like Apple.
Tell us about the craziest rumor about yourself that you've ever heard. Is there any truth to it?
One of the most bizarre rumors I ever heard about myself was that I supposedly had a secret vault somewhere filled with prototypes of future Apple products that were years ahead of anything on the market. According to this rumor, I had personally designed these products, and they were locked away, waiting for the perfect moment to be released. It was like something out of a science fiction novel, a hidden treasure trove of technological marvels that only I knew about. As entertaining as that story might be, it's completely false. While I was deeply involved in the design and development of Apple's products, and while we always had multiple projects and prototypes in various stages of development, there was no secret vault filled with futuristic devices. The reality is that product development at Apple was always a team effort, and any new technology we explored was always shared with the relevant teams working on it. Another wild rumor was that I had hired a team of psychologists to help me design Apple products in a way that would make them addictive. The idea was that we were intentionally creating devices that people couldn't put down, almost like a form of technological mind control. Again, this was pure fiction. At Apple, our goal was to create products that people loved to use because they were intuitive, beautiful, and functional, not because we were trying to manipulate their behavior. As for whether there was any truth to these rumors, not really. While I was passionate about pushing the boundaries of technology and design, there was never anything sinister or secretive about it. My focus was always on creating the best possible products, ones that would genuinely improve people's lives. The stories and rumors that grew around Apple and me were often exaggerated or entirely fabricated, a reflection of the mystique that surrounded the company and the products we created. In the end, these rumors are just that, stories. The truth is that what we achieved at Apple was the result of hard work, innovation, and a relentless pursuit of excellence, not secret vaults or psychological tricks.
What else have you integrated into your life like this? And which of practices do you consider to have had the most impact on your life, and which has the maximum effect, so that our viewers could also apply in their lives?
One of the most impactful practices that influenced my life was meditation. It's a practice that I discovered early on, and it became a cornerstone of how I approached both my personal life and my work at Apple. Meditation helped me cultivate a sense of clarity, focus, and inner calm, which was crucial in navigating the intense pressures and demands of leading a company like Apple. Meditation isn't just about sitting quietly. It's about training your mind to be present, to manage stress, and to approach challenges with a clear, focused mindset. For me, it was a way to step back from the chaos, to see the bigger picture, and to make decisions from a place of calm rather than reactivity. This practice allowed me to think more creatively and to approach problems with a fresh perspective, which was invaluable in a fast-paced, innovative environment like Apple. Another practice that had a significant impact on my life was simplification. Whether it was in design, decision-making, or even in my personal habits, I always aimed to simplify. This doesn't mean cutting corners or doing less. It means stripping away the unnecessary to focus on what truly matters. In product design, This meant creating devices that were intuitive and free from clutter, where every element served a purpose. In my life, it meant focusing on what was essential, whether it was in my diet, my routines, or my relationships. I also placed great importance on being selective about who I spent time with, what projects I took on, and even the products we chose to develop at Apple. This practice of being selective helped me to channel my energy and resources into what would have the most significant impact. It's easy to get distracted by endless possibilities, but learning to say no and focusing on what really aligns with your goals and values is incredibly powerful. Lastly, continuous learning was a key practice for me. I was always curious, always reading, exploring new ideas, and challenging myself to think differently. This habit of continuous learning kept me inspired and open to new possibilities, and it's something I encourage everyone to embrace. The world is always changing, and staying curious and open-minded is essential for growth and innovation. For your viewers, I'd recommend starting with meditation as a way to cultivate focus and clarity, embracing simplification to reduce distractions, being selective to ensure they're working on what truly matters, and committing to continuous learning to keep growing and evolving. These practices can have a profound impact on anyone's life, just as they did on mine.
Share with us some cool story that would be interesting, maybe funny somewhere, and which you haven't shared with anyone before.
One story that I don't think I've shared widely, and that's a bit on the humorous side, involves the very first Macintosh computer. We were in the final stages of development, and the team had been working day and night to get everything ready for the big launch. The pressure was intense, and everyone was on edge. But there was also this palpable excitement in the air because we knew we were on the verge of something groundbreaking. One night, after what must have been the 1,000th time we'd gone over some tiny detail, I decided we needed a break. So in a rare moment of levity, I suggested we have a software food fight. Yes, you heard that right, a food fight, but with code. We were working on fine-tuning the graphical user interface, and I came up with the idea that we should try to create the silliest, most useless software function we could think of in just 10 minutes. It was a spontaneous competition to see who could come up with the most ridiculous thing that could still technically work on the Mac. One of the engineers created a little program that made the screen slowly rotate 360 degrees, while another made a function where every time you clicked the mouse, a different color appeared on the screen in random splotches. These weren't useful features by any stretch, but it was hilarious to see the usually serious team get so creative and ridiculous. In the middle of all this, I wrote a little script that caused the Mac to eject the floppy disk whenever you pressed the Q key. We all had a good laugh over it, and it was a much-needed release of tension. Of course, none of these features ever made it into the final product, but the exercise served a purpose. It reminded us all that even in the midst of intense work and high stakes, creativity thrives when you allow yourself to have fun and think outside the box. That night became something of a legend within the team. It was a moment of camaraderie and a reminder that innovation doesn't always have to be serious business. Sometimes letting go and being a bit silly can lead to new perspectives and ideas that you might never have considered otherwise. So, while the Mac went on to become a revolutionary product, one of the things I remember most fondly is that night of software food fighting with a group of brilliant, dedicated people who weren't afraid to embrace their creativity, even if just for a few minutes of pure fun.
Name the top 3 books that had the maximum impact on you and which you recommended all our listeners to read.
There are a few books that have profoundly influenced my thinking and approach to both life and work. These are the 3 that I would recommend to anyone looking to expand their mind and challenge their perspectives. 1, Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. This book had a huge impact on me. It introduced me to the concepts of meditation and spirituality in a way that resonated deeply. Yogananda's teachings about the inner journey and self-discovery influenced not just my personal life, but also my approach to leadership and innovation. It's a book that encourages you to look beyond the material world and explore the deeper aspects of existence, which can bring a sense of peace and purpose to whatever you do. 2, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Shunryu Suzuki. This book is a classic in Zen Buddhism and one that I return to often. It's about maintaining a beginner's mind, a state of openness, eagerness, and lack of preconceptions, no matter how advanced you become in your field. This mindset is crucial in innovation and creativity. The teachings in this book help me to stay grounded and approach challenges with fresh eyes, even after years of experience. It's a reminder that there's always something new to learn, and that the journey is just as important as the destination. It's a must-read for anyone looking to understand the dynamics of innovation and the importance of continually challenging the status quo. These books offer a blend of spiritual, philosophical, and practical wisdom that can help guide anyone looking to make an impact, whether in their personal lives, their careers, or the broader world. They shaped my thinking in profound ways, and I believe they can do the same for others.
Great, wonderful. If you could send a message to all Apple users simultaneously, what would be right in there?
If I could send a message to all Apple users simultaneously, it would be this. Think different. Don't just use technology. Use it to push boundaries, to create, to innovate, and to make the world better. Remember, the most powerful tool you have is your mind. Stay curious, stay hungry, and never stop exploring what's possible. The future is yours to shape. This message captures the essence of what I always wanted Apple to stand for: empowering people to think creatively, challenge the status quo, and use technology as a means to unlock their full potential. It's a reminder that every Apple product is more than just a tool. It's an invitation to think differently and make an impact on the world.
What do you think about luck? Does it exist, or it just when preparation meets opportunity?
Luck is a concept that often gets a lot of attention, especially when people talk about success. In my view, luck does exist, but it's not something you can rely on or plan for. More often than not, what people call luck is really the result of preparation meeting opportunity. I believe that when you're passionate about something, when you're dedicated and you put in the hard work, you're naturally creating opportunities for yourself. You're positioning yourself to be in the right place at the right time. And when that moment comes, when opportunity presents itself, you're ready to seize it because you've done the groundwork. So yes, luck plays a role, but it's a very small part of the equation. What really matters is the effort you put in beforehand, the long hours, the relentless focus, the willingness to learn, adapt, and push through challenges. That's what ultimately creates success. When you're prepared, you're able to recognize opportunities that others might miss and act on them in ways that others can't. In many ways, luck is about being ready to capitalize on the unexpected. It's about having the skills, the mindset, and the determination to turn a chance event into a meaningful outcome. But without that preparation, even the best opportunities can slip through your fingers. So while I acknowledge that luck exists, I'd say it's much more important to focus on being prepared, staying open to possibilities, and having the courage to take action when the moment arises. That's where true success comes from.
What would you like people to remember about Steve Jobs?
I'd like people to remember Steve Jobs as someone who was passionate about making a difference, a relentless innovator who wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo, and who believed deeply in the power of design and technology to change the world. I want to be remembered not just for the products we created at Apple, but for the philosophy behind them. The idea that technology should be intuitive, beautiful, and enhance our lives in meaningful ways. I hope people remember that at the core of everything I did was a desire to create tools that empowered individuals, that sparked creativity, and that connected people in new and profound ways. More than anything, I'd like to be remembered for the belief that great things are possible when you dare to think differently, when you're not afraid to take risks, and when you're willing to push through the obstacles to make something truly extraordinary. It's about leaving a legacy that inspires others to pursue their own visions with passion, to never settle, and to always strive for excellence in whatever they do. Ultimately, I'd like people to remember Steve Jobs as someone who believed in the power of ideas, who had the courage to follow his intuition, and who dedicated his life to creating products and experiences that would leave a lasting impact on the world.
And if you had the opportunity to say something that every person on the planet would hear, what would it be?
If I had the chance to say something that every person on the planet could hear, it would be this: your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most importantly, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. This message reflects a belief that was central to how I lived my life and how I approached my work. It's about the importance of authenticity, the courage to follow your own path, and the recognition that life is too short to live according to someone else's expectations. It's a call to action to embrace your own unique journey, to trust in yourself, and to make the most of the time you have.
We've been talking for several hours now, and I think it's time to wrap up. But we will definitely do a second part. To make our next episode interesting for the subscribers, we're going to hold a little contest. Head over the comments and leave your questions for the next video with Steve Jobs. We'll choose the most interesting question, and the winner will receive a paid subscription to ChatGPT, along 5 personal tips from Steve Jobs himself. We'll record the video and see how it goes. So leave your questions for the second part and we'll make sure to record it. Thank you, it was a truly intense and profound conversation.